Welcome everyone. In our previous videos, we have seen what is immunity and what are all the different cells involved in the immune system. Now, today in this particular video, we are going to see about the 4 levels of barriers that guards our immune system and also the types of immunity. First, what are all the different levels of barriers that's present in our body to protect us? The first barrier is physical barrier. The physical barrier includes the skin, the body hair, the cilia, eyelashes, the respiratory tract and the gastrointestinal tract. These form the first line of defense. Whenever an external pathogen tries to enter inside our body, this first line of barrier, or we call it as the physical barrier, protects the entry of the pathogen inside our body. The skin does more than providing us with fair or dark complexions. Our skin acts as a physical barrier to the entry of pathogens. Inside our gastrointestinal tract and respiratory tract, we have a mucus coating, and this mucus coating that's present in our nose and ear is a protective barrier which traps the pathogen before it gets inside. The second level of barrier we have is chemical barriers. We know that our stomach uses hydrochloric acid to break down the food molecules. Due to such a strongly acidic environment, most of the germs that enter our body along with the food are killed before the further process is carried on. But this chemical barriers is not just present in our stomach, it's almost present in different parts of our body. For example, the saliva in our mouth and tears in our eyes also have this antibiotic property. Not just this, even inside in our outside body, the sweat glands, which produces the sweat whenever we do some exercise, this also contains the antibiotic property. These does not allow the growth of pathogens even though they are exposed all day. The third level of barriers in our bodies are cellular barriers. In spite of physical and physiological barriers, certain pathogens manage to enter our body. The cells involved in these barriers are leukocytes, that is WBC, then neutrophils, lymphocytes, basophil, eosinophil and monocytes. All these cells that are present in the body and tissues take care of the next line of defense. The last barrier is cytokine barriers. These are the cells that's present in our body which are smarter than we give them the credit for. For example, in case a cell in our body experiences a virus invasion, it automatically secretes proteins called interferons, which forms a coating around the infected cell and prevents the cell around it from further infections. So basically, these 4 levels of barriers are giving us an enhanced protection against the pathogens 24/7. Now, we are going to see about the 2 types of immunity that's present in our body. The first level of defense or immunity, we call it as innate immunity. This type of immunity is present in an organism by birth. That is, once we are born in this world, the innate immunity starts working. This is activated immediately when the pathogen attacks you. And this innate immunity includes certain barriers and defense mechanisms that keep the foreign particles out of the body. The innate immunity refers to the body's defense system. This immunity helps us by providing the natural resistance components including salivary enzymes, natural killer cells, intact skin and neutrophils, etc., which produce an initial response against the infections at birth prior to exposure to a pathogen or antigens. This innate immunity is a long-term immunity in which our body produces the antibodies on its own. Our body has a few natural barriers to prevent the entry of pathogens. So basically, this innate immunity is guarding us 24/7, and it is like the first line of defense that's protecting us from the pathogens. And one special character about this innate immunity is it's like very fast and rapid against these pathogens. The second type of immunity is acquired immunity. This acquired immunity, or we also call it as adaptive immunity, is the immunity that our body acquires or gains over time. Unlike the innate immunity, this is not present by birth. The ability of the immune system to adapt itself to disease and to generate pathogen-specific immunity is termed as acquired immunity. It's also called as adaptive immunity. An individual who acquires this immunity after the birth, hence it's called as acquired immunity. It is specific and mediated by antibodies or lymphocytes, which makes the antigen harmless. The main function of this acquired immunity is to relieve the victim of the infectious disease and also prevent its attack in future. It mainly consists of an advanced lymphatic defense system which functions by recognizing the own body cells and not reacting to them. So basically, if we compare this innate immunity and acquired immunity, innate immunity is the faster line of defense and acquired immunity will take some time to perform its action. Innate immunity doesn't have any specificity, whereas your acquired immunity have specificity towards the pathogens. And innate immunity doesn't have any immunological memory. So every time whenever an organism or pathogen attacks you, it will act like a new, it will treat the particular pathogen as a new pathogen. But whereas your acquired immunity has immunological memory, so that if a similar pathogen attacks the next time, easily the acquired immunity will kick it out. So these are the few basic characteristic differences between innate immunity and acquired immunity. And under innate immunity, most of your physical barriers, chemical barriers, cytokine barriers, and 90% of our immune cells start working. So when I say 90% of cell, all our myeloid cells that we have seen, that is eosinophil, basophil, neutrophil, macrophage, dendritic cells, all these cells comes under innate immunity. Even from our lymphoid cells, we have the natural killer cells which also work under as a innate immunity. Then what are the cells or tissues that comes under acquired immunity? So the T cells and B cells are the two important cells which take care of the entire acquired immunity along with the help of the lymphatic system. So this is about the two types of immunity and the 4 levels of barriers for our immune system. In the upcoming videos, we will see in detail about how this acquired immunity works.